You thought the M5 iPad Pro was the future. You thought Apple finally delivered the killer laptop replacement. You saw the specs: M5 chip, a neural engine so fast it feels like a fever dream, Wi-Fi 7, more RAM than most laptops on the market. On paper, this is the most powerful mobile computer ever built. But after weeks of using it, after pushing it to the absolute breaking point, I have to tell you the truth. The M5 iPad Pro is a performance miracle shackled to a fundamental flaw. It's not an iPad Pro, it's an iPad Pro, blem. And the problem is not the hardware. The problem is what they refuse to let it be. For the next 30 minutes, we are going to tear down this $1,300, $2,000, $3,000 device piece by piece. We'll start with the undisputed facts of the M5's raw, terrifying power. We'll go deep on the leaks that promised more than we got, and then, we'll expose the 4 unfixable issues in the iPadOS 26 ecosystem that stop this Pro machine from being anything more than a glorified, expensive accessory. If you own an M1, M2, or M4 iPad Pro, or if you were about to click buy on this M5, you need to hear this entire review. Let's talk about the M5. The leaks were right, the speed gains are real. When you throw a multi-track 4K video edit at this thing, or render a complex 3D scene in Procreate, it doesn't just handle it, it chews it up and asks for more. The M4 was fast, but the M5 isn't just a bump, it's a statement. This is the computational core of a Pro desktop crammed into a 5mm thin slab. The new neural accelerators? They make the new on-device generative AI features almost instantaneous. This is where the M5 is genuinely future-proof. We're talking about desktop class, no compromise performance. Apple finally listened to the professionals demanding power, and they delivered it in spades. They even threw in a modular USB-C port for better repairability, a small, but important win the leaks hinted at. The display, the new Tandem OLED, is still one of the most beautiful pieces of glass ever made. The colors, the deep blacks, the 1600 nit peak brightness, it is a visual marvel for content creation. The new Wi-Fi 7 is a nice piece of future-proofing, and the expanded 12GB or 16GB RAM is finally the minimum this level of chip deserves. So, where is the problem? It starts here, the confinement of the Pro user. You have a chip more powerful than 90% of the laptops sold this year, but what does Apple let you do with it? We were promised the next generation iPadOS 26, the OS that would finally free the hardware. The leaks suggested true desktop windowing, a proper file management system that didn't feel like a toy, and uncompromised external monitor support. What we got was an incremental update. The multitasking is still multitasking light. You can run 2 apps side by side, maybe a slide over, but the moment your workflow demands 3 or 4 resizable, professional-grade application windows, the system chokes and forces you back into its restrictive, tablet-first paradigm. This M5 chip is bored. It's sitting at 30% utilization, waiting for a command iPadOS will never give it. This is the first failure. The software is the choke point. The second problem, the accessory tax. The Magic Keyboard. The Apple Pencil Pro. These are not options, they are mandatory purchases for any Pro workflow, and they add hundreds, sometimes thousands, to the already exorbitant base price. And for what? The Magic Keyboard is still too heavy and still offers virtually zero protection for the device's sides. The screen weight balance is still off, it tips back easily on your lap. For a $300 plus accessory, it is shockingly fragile and poorly designed for stability. The new Pencil Pro is fantastic, yes, but the mere need for these wildly overpriced, separate accessories exposes the iPad Pro as a disjointed system, not a complete professional solution. The third, and most critical problem, true desktop-class app parity. Where are the full versions of the apps that actually need this M5 power? Where is the fully featured, uncompromised Final Cut Pro, the kind you run on a MacBook Pro? Where is the full desktop Photoshop, not the mobile version? Pro apps require file system deep dives, custom plugins, terminal access, and complex memory management, all things iPad OS actively walls off. This device can run a virtual machine, it can compile code faster than anything in its class, but Apple still prevents it from running its own essential software, forcing professionals to buy a MacBook Pro anyway. It's a genius business model for Apple, but an infuriating problem for the consumer. And finally, the fourth problem, the thermal trap. Yes, the M5 is efficient, but when you do manage to stress it, when you run those peak performance workloads for 15 to 20 minutes, which is what Pro users do, the chassis still gets uncomfortably warm. And why? Because of the pursuit of this absurd, thin-as-paper design. Apple prioritized the aesthetic over sustained performance cooling. They sacrificed the ability to run hard all day, every day, just so it could be 5.1 mm thick. It's a gorgeous design that actively harms its own functional potential. So, the verdict on the M5 iPad Pro is split. If you are a student, an artist, or a media consumer with deep pockets, this is the best, most future-proof tablet ever made. It is the absolute pinnacle of touch computing. But if you are a pro, an engineer, a developer, a video editor, or a power user who needs this device to replace a laptop, it is a colossal failure. The M5 is screaming for freedom, and Apple has kept it caged. You're buying a Formula One engine and being told you can only drive it in a school zone. The power is here. The screen is perfect. The potential is limitless. But the iPad Pro is the same as it has always been, Apple's unwillingness to commit to the Pro in iPad Pro. It is a magnificent machine held back by an intentional chokehold. Do not buy this expecting it to be your main computer. Buy it as the best, most powerful companion device in the world, and accept the fact that your real work will still happen elsewhere. The M5 is not the problem, it's the victim. The real problem is Apple's strategy. But wait, there's one leak that changes everything. A very quiet, easily missed line of code in the iPad OS 26 beta suggests a desktop mode buried deep within the system, a mode that could be activated by a specific accessory, maybe an upcoming Pro Magic Keyboard V2. It's the one glimmer of hope that everything I just said could be instantly wrong. Click on the video description for the link to that leaked code analysis, because if this feature is real, then the M5 iPad Pro is about to be unleashed. But until then, the problem remains.